Welcome back to the Happiest Sad Person podcast. I'm Alessandra, your host, and even though we're a little bit well into the new year, about 3 weeks in at this point, I thought I would kind of have this be a 2024 resolutions type episode. But first, we're going to start with what I think I'm going to start episodes with now, which is what I've been listening to, what I've been reading, and what I've been watching. Kind of just like a little intro. So I'm a music addict. I listen to music, I would say probably of my waking hours, I would say about 75% while I'm doing work, while I'm editing, while I'm going for runs, while I'm doing housework, cooking. I'm addicted to music. I like pretty much all music. My preference, like I said in the previous episode, is kind of like 60s psychedelic classic rock moving into early 70s. I also love the 50s, kind of like the Dean Martin style music, and of course the classic like 60s girl groups, the Supremes, the Shirelles, the Angels. Those are my kind of the bread and butter for music, but I'm not immune to new music either. I love EDM. I love Russian pop, which always surprises people. I like sort of like unique indie music. I like Aurora, Sigrid. As time goes on, I'll kind of see what I'm listening to at the moment and go through it. But the one type of music that stresses me out is jazz, because jazz to me sounds like what hell would sound like, because it's just too much, it's too chaotic, it's too scattered, it's loud, it's all over the place. It just stresses me out. It's, instead of making me feel relaxed, it makes me feel like something bad is about to happen. So yeah, jazz is not my thing. And then maybe super modern rap, kind of like the glorifying gun violence and gangs in Chicago and that sort of, what is it called, drill music or something. Not a fan, but if you like it, more power to you. But what I've been listening to lately, and kind of what I fell down a rabbit hole with, is sort of like subversive religious music, kind of like kids that were growing up in very traumatic religious households and now we're musicians and rebel. And I don't know, right? Kind of like it's religious, but it's not quite, because it's still dark and edgy. And one song I found is called Martyr by King Mala. And I love the beat of it. I love the energy. It's a good song to run to. I like a mixture of upbeat songs to run to and kind of like slower, a little more like seductive-y songs, because they're good for whenever you're just trying to get some mileage in, because the pace isn't too fast. So the first verse, I just have to read these lyrics because I think they're so good. Is keep you like a secret, dancing in the deep end. It's honey catching season, and you're looking at me like I'm your Eve, down on your knees. I mean, come on. That's like so hot, so good, so religious, but dark, a little evil. If you haven't figured out already, I'm not a big organized religion person. I think spirituality is important. I think that once you put religion out on a public stage, it kind of isn't religion anymore. It's something that takes away the personal experience. I think it becomes community or communal, but I don't know if it's necessarily a true individualized spiritual practice with you connected to potentially a higher power or a greater universe beyond you. That's just my opinion. And I think organized religion has done a lot of harm and hurts people and causes people to other each other, to other themselves, to other groups, and we don't know what happens after we die. And so I kind of love when people analyze religion and talk about religion in a subversive way and kind of like a questioning way, because I think that's going to be a universal quality in humanity for the near future, is wondering what comes beyond us. And I wish we would all just get on board and be like, we all don't know, so who cares? Let's all just be little, I don't know, Grecian heathen hedonists and live it up. But obviously I'm in the minority there. But, and then the chorus of the song goes, making this body your altar, drinking it down holy water, romantic and it's hopeless, deadly your devotion, you make me a beautiful martyr. And I love kind of that, for lack of a better term, cult language with it, because it again leans into kind of the darkness and the control of religion in a really fun and interesting way. So I listened to this song on repeat recently and I just love it. Highly recommend you listen to it. Highly. Her other music is really catchy too. Again, slower beat music that I run to, that's not, usually it's like a middle of the run song that still keeps you hyped. It still is definitely, I don't know, motivating in a weird way. And you can kind of like leave your own brain and think about being like the leader of a cult and people worshiping you. And I'm an imagination person when I run, so I love kind of disappearing into another world mentally and pretending I'm somebody else. So what I've been reading lately, two-ish, 2.5 books. The first is Ohio by Stephen Markley, and it's a fiction novel. It's set in New Canaan, Ohio. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I do need to look this up because I am embarrassed that I don't know. Because I live close enough to Ohio. I kind of live on the crux of, I live in Pennsylvania, but it's kind of like the crux of Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia. So I have a weird mixture of accents and types of people and like kind of like the industrial working class and kind of Appalachia in the South. And then Pittsburgh is the closest town, like city to me. So it's a very weird area that has a lot of culture meshed into it. So I really related to this book. It was a recommendation from a friend, and actually he was so excited to lend it to me. And he, the next time we hung out at trivia, he was like, you have to read this, and brought the book. And I see why. The book is, the imagery is so well done. It's basically, the book opens on, this isn't a spoiler because this is kind of the crux of the whole novel, on a soldier's death who is from the town, and kind of how his death and his friend group, how they all come together, and there's some mystery that will occur that will kind of connect his death to everything else. I'm not there yet, but the one character, the second chapter, because it's broken up into each character, like each friend, it reminds me so much of Fear and Loathing by Hunter S. Thompson. The second chapter, the guy's kind of like a deadbeat psychedelic drug user struggler guy, and it reminds me so much of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. The wording, the describing the drug use, but it's so unique to the writer and so well done. I love books that when I read them I get angry because I'm like, I wish I could write like that. This is similar to my book because it connects a friend group and kind of how all of their secrets intertwine. But this is so far from my writing style. It's so just something else I wouldn't be able to write in this style. So it's almost so far removed that it's not influencing my book, but it's just a really fun read. And it's interesting to see how different authors can take that concept and twist it and play with it. And it just makes me excited because we'll never run out of books to write as humans, because we can take an idea and flip it in a million different ways. So I really like this book so far. So thus far, even though the buildup is slow, and I was kind of warned that the buildup was slow, highly recommend. And also it feels, um, it feels very just relevant to like Rust Belt America. So if you're from that region, I think you'll really relate to the references, the subtle nods to that. It's also set around the '08 housing crisis. So also just if you were in America at that time, if you were a cognizant human being at that time, you'll really resonate with just the references, the down and out feeling, the struggling, the introduction. Heroin and pain pills and opioids were big in that time period, and you can really see that influence in the book. Really, really, I don't know, interesting, and an enjoyable read, even though it's kind of depressing, but it's very much a take on real life. And then the second book I'm reading, because I'm trying to do a hybrid of a fiction book and then a nonfiction book, is called The Architecture of Happiness by Alain de Botton. Botton? I don't know. Somebody DM me how to pronounce it, or comment down below if you're watching this on YouTube. But it's all about architecture and kind of its origins. I thought it was going to be more about because the cover has a pink wall in it, so I thought it was going to talk about how light pink paint colors make people more relaxed, stuff like that, more of a psychology architecture book. But this kind of goes back to the beginning of where our modern architecture came from, and I was not expecting it to be this kind of book, but I love it and find it fascinating, and kind of should be on everyone's bookshelf. I think 100% you should read this book, because we all live in the modern world, and I don't know about you, but for me, I find our most modern architecture, how we build houses, how we build buildings now, to be so incredibly ugly and without natural materials, and so not specific to the area, that like you could go into a suburb kind of anywhere in America, everything looks the same. And it makes me so sad, because I love when an area has charm and a specific certain je ne sais quoi to their architecture. When there's a story to the place where you live, where things are walkable. And so I'm really trying to educate myself about how things got to be the way that they are, and how things can change, and how, I don't know how, because this is a book about the history of architecture. So sort of how things have changed in the past, and maybe project what could happen in the future when it comes to our modern architecture. So it goes into the beginnings, the classical copies that we started to build in Europe and Britain that mirrored Grecian and Roman buildings. And then there was a twist moving to Gothic architecture, Gothic cathedrals, which were really only for non-homes. But then we started adding, there was one guy that kind of was like, let's do a Gothic style home. And then that became all the rage, because new things are exciting. And then it was even to the point where one couple couldn't decide whether they wanted, I think the husband wanted classic, and then the wife wanted Gothic. And so they did the front classic and the back Gothic, I believe, and bizarre looking building. I'm personally not a fan of Gothic architecture, really, for houses. I think for churches it's beautiful, but I think it can look very too kitschy if you don't do it right. Especially if it's done in the modern era. It can look kind of like what is it, medieval times? Is that that jousting place where you can go eat and see a show? So those were kind of the two styles making up the majority of our sort of modern history. And then the Industrial Revolution hit. And then it was, let's mirror technology. Let's mirror how a plane looks, how an engine looks. And so therefore birthed modern architecture. And it was pretty reviled by a lot of people, but it again was like the new frontier, and engineers became almost the new architects. They usurped architects because they had found, quote unquote, the right way of doing architecture. Because until then, the original decision was that classic architecture was the way to do it. Then Gothic came in and shook things up, and then from there was no right way to build things. So with the new modern architecture, there was, I believe the house was called Villa Savoye, and I think it was in Germany. And it was built by another French name, Le Corbusier. I don't know. I need to actually take French, but he was a modern architect that was revolted by the classical and Gothic styles and wanted things to be entirely mirroring the industrial revolution and the mechanics that were being built during that time. And the couple that commissioned him to build the house, they were excited and gung-ho about it, but when it was completed, the house was a piece of shit. The roof leaked, there were always problems. The architect fought fixing it all, and even got to the point where their son, the leaking was so bad that he ended up getting a lung infection and was in the hospital for a year. He had to go away. I think they call it a sanitarium at that point. But which, I mean, you laugh. It's kind of funny because it's like, guys, maybe take your kid out of their leaking room. Like, you don't have to sacrifice everything for the architecture. But the roof was flat, and it wasn't originally supposed to be flat. And the roof was the best part of the house. So of course, the best part is the most problematic one. But there was flooding in the house everywhere for long stretches of time. So the initial foray into modern architecture, it wasn't the best showing of engineers doing housing and architecture and sort of that way of building. So that's where I'm at now with the books. So I'll continue on. And then I'm rereading as well. Let's see. I'm rereading Atomic Habits, which I've read it, I think, twice now. I think I tend to read it every year, the new year. I just want to reintroduce the concepts. I want to get back into just remembering how to build habits, the science behind it. I remember reading it initially and being enamored by it, and it just enthralled, thinking it was the best thing since sliced bread. Because I also didn't grow up with routines or habits or anything. So that truly was revolutionary to me, that, oh, if you do things consistently, you'll get better and things will get better. Shocker. But yeah, I'm listening to that on audiobook again. So I'm sure I'll have some new insights after reading it a third time that I'll bring to the table. And then what I've been watching. So I cannot focus on TV. I don't know what's wrong with me. I used to be able to. I used to have like box DVD sets and watch them and be able to choose something, sit down and watch it. I haven't been able to do that in years, and it drives me up a wall. I want to commit to watch The Sopranos. I want to finish watching Severance. I was on a roll with watching that for a bit, and then it just faded off. I just think about sitting somewhere for an hour. I can't make that commitment. I also can't choose. I somehow think that there's something better waiting in the wings. So I'm like, why? I can't choose if there's something better. It's horrible. So I need to get beyond that. So if you have any suggestions or advice on how I can get over that, do tell. And if I haven't said already, I do have notes. I think I've been swinging them around. And if you're listening, you obviously can't see. So I'm referencing notes. I'm trying to be more on the ball this year. I'm trying to be responsible and take this seriously. And I don't know, again, with microdosing, man, it changed my life. It made me plugged into the world again. So it's nice. And I want this to take up my time, and I want to take this seriously and create more videos and content and interviews for podcasts. And we'll get into this more later in the podcast. But when it comes to things I've been watching, there's also so many movies I want to see, so many classics and things that I want to learn from, because I want to direct things and create scripts and be a screenwriter and director, and kind of like a Wes Anderson or Quentin Tarantino. Like, I like to create things like that. And being well versed in movies is important. And I'd like to do that. And I'd like to just enjoy movies. But I do watch YouTube, weirdly enough. I think it's our brains being rotted from short form content. And I'm really trying to change that, but it's hard to extend your focus. So I do watch YouTube. I've been watching things about how to make your 2024 your year, getting ready for 2024, productive ideas for 2024. I love watching these because it feels like you're doing something when you're not. It's like a laziness thing, where it's like you can do something but you're not actually doing something. So I've been watching those. And I'm reading my notes, and it says, it sadly makes me feel productive, which is true. I'm ashamed to say I watch videos thinking I'm that person and pretending I'm doing those things mentally. But don't we all? I hope to some degree. And then I also found this video, which I thought was really interesting, about how to make a life binder. So it involves all things making your life ideal, your physical body, spirituality, career. And so you make vision boards, you make affirmation lists, and you kind of make your life cheat sheet, in your binder, and what you aspire to, and kind of keeping track of everything. So I think I might want to make one of those. And maybe if you're interested, I can do an episode dedicated to that, and maybe like a dedicated YouTube video as well, if you're interested in watching it. So again, let me know. Because I want, I kind of want to be the guinea pig for fixing one's life, for it to be me fixing my life, and people learning from it, and people seeing that if I can do this, anyone can. Kind of like a proving that, things can always be better. You can always be better, because if I could do it, anyone can. So that's kind of the direction I'm going in at the moment. And then as things get better, my content may change, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. So let's go into, because this is the 2024 New Year's episode, it's still January. Thought I'd go into some goals for 2024, and maybe if you could get inspired if you're still. I think you have the whole month of January basically to make your goals. I do my vision board in December, but I do think January is like the full year of new year, new you. So here's some goals I have for 2024. So I have currently a bet that I've made with my brother and his friend, where in April we are going to run a 10K, which is 6.1 miles. Yeah, isn't it? 6.1, 6.2, 10K, six-ish miles. Now I'm questioning it. And whoever gets the fastest time, you have 3 days to do it. So April 13, 14, and 15, you can only run it once if you want, but you have 3 days to pick your best time. And whoever loses, or the two losers, have to wear an American flag, like an I Love America basically sweatshirt throughout Europe and wear it for 2 days straight. So you're basically going to be stared at and mocked, because for me, that's humiliating. But if I lose, which I don't plan on it, I'll make the outfit cute. I'll crop the sweatshirt, I'll wear it with some cargo pants, maybe heeled boots. I'll make it a look. I'll make some TikToks, and if I'm going to humiliate myself, why not get some attention out of it? But that's the bet. And so it's forced me to get back into running. And the worst case scenario is I lose, but I still get in really great shape, and I still participated in a challenge, and I'm on my way to, start running again and be a runner again, because being a runner requires, there we go, it requires running. So that's kind of an important thing to get back into running. Another one of my goals when it comes to fitness is getting abs. I've always wanted them. I don't think I've ever had them. I can already tell because I've been losing weight. I've been on this weight loss journey and experience for a few months now. I can feel like my stomach tightening up. My abs are definitely being worked. I'm doing abs every other day. Not a major thing, just like a 10-minute video that I do every other day. And I feel like I'm making more progress than I have in a while. So I'm optimistic. Even if I get closer to abs, that's still an amazing thing. And then I'm doing a misogi. I don't know if you've ever heard of a misogi, but I heard it from Jesse Itzler. I should know what he created. He's a entrepreneur, personal development dude, but as a true feminist, I know him from being married to the woman who created Spanx. So that is his wife, or that is, yeah, his wife. And also he wrote a book and did the challenge of living with David Goggins for a period of time and being trained by David Goggins and that experience. That's another book I want to read. But he talks about it, I think, in Joe Rogan's interview with him, and David Goggins, I think, has mentioned it as well. So I'll see if I can find those references and add those to the links below. But that's how I found the idea of the misogi, because he does it every year. He does a different challenge every year. And a misogi, so I'll read what it actually is, and I'll link down below a deeper explanation of its history and origins. Misogi is a Japanese term that refers to a unique and challenging practice of purification. In traditional Japanese culture, misogi involves immersing oneself in cold water or standing beneath a waterfall to purify the body and mind. But in contemporary times, misogi has taken on a broader meaning. It's a challenge that pushes you to your limits and forces you to confront your fears, doubts, and weaknesses. So it's kind of like something that feels very challenging, but still possible. And so for me, I have said I really want to get back into running, but for me, my misogi is running a marathon in the fall. I'm leaning towards, because I've wanted to do this for a while. There's a marathon in Galway, Ireland. If Galway, if you've never been, it's so beautiful. It's so green. It's so lush. It's the pubs are awesome. I'm a Guinness fan. There's a little breakfast place right along the water in this little stone building that's amazing. The hiking around there is amazing and beautiful. I can't recommend it more, the town of Galway. But I wanted to do the marathon before that, and I think that was either right before I got injured or during my injury that marathon would have gone on, so it didn't work out in my favor. So regardless, I want to run a marathon in the fall. I feel like that gives me plenty of time to train and prep and really cross train and and make that possible. And that's going to be my 2024 misogi. So I'm excited for that. And I want to do this every year now. I think that's such a cool idea to pick one challenge. And it doesn't necessarily have to be physical. It can be something challenging mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically taxing, difficult, challenging. It has to feel like you've accomplished something. So also my fitness goals, physical goals, I'd like to lose some weight. I have had a lot of health issues in the past that have gotten in the way of really losing weight, even though I am currently, 18 pounds down since September 1st. So, September 1st, 2023, and now it's January 2024. So October, November, December, like 3.5, 4 months. Which for me is a big deal because I could never really actually lose weight. I also think I used weight as a protective mechanism. And that may sound odd, but I think a lot of people do this as well without realizing it. It's like a safety thing, especially women. For me, attention for the way I looked has never been positive. It's never really been a plus for me. And I just never really got anything out of it, outside of the attention. And often the attention was not wanted. But I think that's clouded a lot of my views of my physical appearance and kind of not taking ownership of my body and really, for the lack of a better term, using it to my full advantage, like in the world for it to benefit me and not to make other people feel good. If that makes sense without sounding conceited or gross. And I think when you're a girl, if you look good in traditional America and more middle class, hyper heteronormative culture, your reward really isn't anything related to you. It's just sort of a boy who then you're going to have to fix and take care of, i.e. traditional marriage. So more work. And, I kind of realized that. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want, but I never felt like there was any benefit for me for the way that I looked, something that I got that was exclusively mine. And again, when you get unwarranted attention, that again isn't valuable to you, it's not enjoyable. There's no pro that comes from it. So I think that I finally have shed that protective layer on myself and really just want to look my best for me, get any benefit that comes if I enter the entertainment space or the public sphere. If I get, something that's a tangible benefit to me, I can really appreciate it, enjoy it, and feel like it's mine. It's my looks aren't a prize for somebody else, basically. And I don't know, I've always really struggled with that because I do think girls are often seen as sort of an attaché for a man. And when that happened, I never really felt like I belonged to me anymore. I feel like I lost myself. So that's kind of a a long-winded way of saying that I really felt like maybe a little extra weight was it started as a health thing and then it moved on to a protective thing. So I also, when it comes to physical goals, want to join a running club. There's two in my area. There's one that's the hardcore runners, and then there's the more fun pizza and beer after the runners. I think I want to join the easier one first. I want to try to do it by May. We'll see. But I would 100% want to join one at least this year. And that's scary for me. I am an extrovert, but I have a fear of rejection. And that probably stems from being a kid and being rejected and ignored a lot growing up. I really was not liked as a kid. I was sort of universally disliked. So I struggle when it comes to taking that risk entirely with something that I care about. If it was something I didn't really care about, I wouldn't care about the rejection, but I would want the other runners to like me because this matters to me, if that makes sense. So I definitely feel like I too have started my life completely over since COVID, and that includes with friends. And I definitely cleared a lot of not so good people out of my life. I really did think you had to keep everyone in your life with you no matter what, even if you didn't like them anymore, even if you never liked them, or even if you've since grown and changed and moved on to another, sphere of your life. I thought you just had to keep those people in your life, even if they didn't root for you. And I don't think that anymore. And so I now am on the hunt for people that I actually like, that I want to be my friend. And I want people that are motivating and inspiring. And I don't think making friends is hard per se. Well, let me clarify that. I think when you're an extrovert, making friends is not hard. I think making friends that you actually like and connect with is hard as an adult. So I really want that this year. I want to find at least one new really good friend, and potentially a new group of people that are like-minded and similar to me. So that's one of my goals. I also want to learn to play golf. I have an access to a golf club, and so I had this naive idea that I could play golf on the course. I drove past the course one day. I'm like, oh, I don't think I could hit the ball that far. Thinking of doing that for 4 hours in a day, no, well beyond my level of skill. So there's also a golf simulator at this golf club. So I want to practice that more. I just want to play golf more. Basically learn to play it. I want to shoot hoops again. I played basketball for a large portion of my life, and I was actually scouted as a child playing just with friends, and a coach came up and was like, you're going to play on my team. And that kind of started my basketball career. And it's I wish that would happen in other parts of my life now, the creative world. I wish somebody would scout me now, but I loved basketball. I used to play around the world by myself for hours. I had a basketball hoop on an old barn at my house, and I would play until the sun went down. And even when the sun went down, there was a little overhang lamp that I would still play for hours and hours and hours. And I really miss it. Recently I've just been thinking about this, and there's something really peaceful to me, maybe nostalgia, about shooting hoops, just playing basketball by yourself. Obviously, I'll get back into it, maybe join a league or something, or play for fun, whatever. But I really like playing alone. Basketball just by myself, just playing around the world, or doing trying to do hit some 3-pointers, doing a free throw, just playing for fun. I really want to get back to that. And then I also want to get back to playing tennis. I was also someone that played tennis for a large portion of my life. I had a tennis coach for many years, and I feel like every Russian that plays tennis, figure skating or tennis, I feel like those are the two things you have to do. If you are adjacent to the USSR, Soviet Union. And it's a lifelong skill and sport. And so I need to get back into that. It's also a really good workout. And again, even if I go to, there's a court that has just a wall up, and you can just hit the ball off the wall. Just practicing by myself. And again, I can get better at it, so I can play with other people again, and again, maybe make new friends. So, the goal is just to enjoy it without a purpose, but if other things come from it, awesome. And if they don't, who cares? Because I'm still enjoying it. When it comes to learning, my goals for learning, I want to keep up my Duolingo streak. I'm almost at 500. I'm at 480 80 something, 480 days. So I want to keep up my Duolingo streak. I usually alternate between Russian and German. I also want to create a life syllabus, which is a yearly plan of what I want to study almost by semester, creating a calendar for myself, becoming a lifelong adult learner and really integrating learning in my life. And eventually I want to work my professional calendar around my life syllabus, because for me, school is my most favorite thing. I miss it so much. And I want to create school, but for the rest of my life. And I think that's definitely possible. And I want to do a specific video podcast about it as well. So take a look out for that, and maybe let me know if you're interested in that, and maybe some things you'd want me to mention in there. I'll also be creating some templates that I'll be using as well. So if you want to get some templates, I'll have those. But when it comes to my life syllabus for 2024, I want to learn, the concept of it for this year is kind of melding the esoteric with the tangible. So I want to learn about Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism, tarot, and astrology. Kind of blending that with learning about architecture and aesthetic design and how cities are made. So kind of these two very differing things, but playing to my spiritual side and then also playing to my passion for making the world a better place. I also got a farmer's almanac. My grandfather got one every year, and he was a farmer and would plant things based on the full moon and would forage. And so I also want to read that and connect more to that part of my history and culture. And then also I want to learn more about poker. I've really gotten into playing poker online just for fun, for free. And I'd like to get better at it. I would love to play like professionally or like really get into it, because there's something exhilarating and high stakes about that I'm fascinated with. And then I also want to take a German language proficiency test to really see what level I'm at, because then I can sort of tinker with what my goals are, get some workbooks to really get better at German, maybe get some professional lessons. I would like to read 60 books this year. Audiobooks count. I've read one so far, and I'm currently in the process of 3 others. And I'd like to watch one Huberman Lab podcast per week. Go back to the beginning. If you're familiar with the Huberman Lab podcast, Andrew Huberman is, I think he works at Stanford, and he's neuroscience ophthalmology. And he does podcasts about the nervous system, how to get the best sleep, how to be the most productive, all of these really great scientific deep dives in how our body works and how to optimize your health. So I'd like to take notes on one podcast a week of his and create like little, just like study guides, and really comprehend the information and kind of the way you would study a lecture. Treat this as almost like, again, school. So I've been enjoying that. And then I'd also really like to learn more about filmmaking, editing, and screenwriting. Those are all dreams of mine that I really want to understand the fundamentals behind them. And I also really love color grading and cinematography, kind of the aesthetics of a movie. Again, I said Wes Anderson, but he always does a color story for every movie. Any project I do a vision board and a color story with it. So I really want to understand, again, the fundamentals of those. I'd also like to take a vegan cooking class or have one proficiency, professional competency level vegan meal in my sort of repertoire of things I can cook that I could give to non-vegans and vegans alike. And it feels like when you watch British cooking shows or TV, they cook, even just civilians cook like leaps and bounds above, I would say, 90% of Americans. I want to be able to cook like that, to really not have it, to taste almost like restaurant quality. That's a goal of mine. One meal. And then when it comes to professional goals, I'd like to post weekly for the podcast. Obviously finish my novel. This has been a long time coming, and I so just want it done, and I want to prove myself that I did it and I'm proud of it, and I obviously want people to like it and make money, and so this can be my job, but I just want it done so I can say I did it and not feel embarrassed when people ask me about it and I still haven't finished it yet. I'd really like to decide on the aesthetic and direction of my brand, this podcast, social media, content I create, etc. And I'd like to really hone what I'm bringing to the table and have it be useful and valuable, and make this world a better place. I'd like to leave this place better than I found it. And I don't quite feel like I'm doing that yet in general. And so I'd really like to figure that out and figure out what my role on this earth is in this society, and how I can, I don't know, help people and help myself along the way as well. I'd like to begin to interview people I want to learn from and am oh my God, and am inspired by. There we go. I love talking to other people. I love learning things from other people. I love connecting ideas, figuring out how we can improve the world, how we can help each other, how we can be kinder to people, how we can grow and develop as humans and become more intelligent. And obviously I don't have really any of the answers, but I'd like to talk to people that do, and maybe I'm really good at connecting dots and seeing the macro level of ideas and how those things layer. So I would love to talk to people, and maybe that can be my role in all of this. I'd also like to begin my next novel, hopefully finish it, or at least be very close to finishing it, because now that I see how a book is written, I can expedite the process tenfold now, which I think is, I guess, important. The first novel is a treacherous experience, and then you can really improve the writing and get it done quicker. I'd also like to visit Pasadena, which is the setting of my next novel, and really get a visual experience of sort of the city, and maybe look at different locations, and because I also write books with the idea that I want to turn them into scripts and then make them into shows or movies, because I write visually, and so in my mind the scene comes out as a movie or show first, and then I translate it into writing, i.e. as a book. And then I'd like to move to LA, or at least travel to LA a handful of times to be invited on podcasts. That's been a goal of mine for a long time, and financially it hasn't been in the cards, but I'd really like to, ideally, at least for the next 3 years, live dually between Pennsylvania and LA, and go back and forth. And then I can set my roots down slowly and then move entirely to LA, maybe by year 3. And I'd like to make at least 3 professional connections in LA, people that I vibe with, potentially people that I can do business with, people that maybe connect with socially as well, because I love for my work to also kind of be my social life as well. I love talking shop and really just spending time late nights working and also hanging out. Like, I like that enmeshment in my life, when it comes to what I actually care about, which is writing and creating stuff. But I'd also like to get a writing agent. That would be amazing, and have representation and have someone in my corner, someone that believes in me. That would be really cool. And I'd like to have my official job be podcaster and writer and content creator. I would like for doing front-facing work and things that I care about and create to be my job, and how I get paid, and I can sort of step back from all of my other jobs and random things that I do, to just get by, which is the life of a creative, unfortunately, these days, because bro, life is so fucking expensive. It's out of control, but I digress. I'd like to make one video that shows my potential chops as a director, something that's really creative and something that's maybe attached to my writing, but something that really feels like a video. So if I could, show it to a studio and say, give me a chance, let me direct something. I could show them this video and it would at least be, at this moment in time, something I would really be proud of. I'd like to pay off my credit card debt. That would be ideal, especially if I get my book published and successful. That would be amazing. And then I'd also like to pay off my student loan debt. And again, that would require just my Sallie Mae one. I have another one that's bigger, but that would again require the book to really hit it big, which I'm optimistic. I'm a manifester, but I'm also a realist. All good things take time. And so I'm willing to wait for the success of the book when it's meant to be and will be, as long as I put in the hard work. That's all that matters. So to end this episode, we're going to pull some quotes about the new year and kind of a fresh start and a new beginning, and just sort of sometimes cliche, but I kind of like the inspiring, cheesy stuff around the new year. There's something magical about the new year, especially when it's snowing right now, and I live in a place that snows, and it's so beautiful and peaceful. And the other day I was out on the trail and I was all alone. There was no one there, and the snow was outlining all of the branches on the trees, and it was so beautiful and blue because the sun was almost totally setting, and the snow was reflecting off the sky, and it was just stunning. And that to me is the new year. It feels fresh, it feels new, it feels like fresh, clean snow that's almost like an ad for laundry detergent. That the scent of cleanliness that comes out of a vent when you're walking through the city or something, that you get that whiff and you're like, oh, it smells so good. I know scents and detergents aren't good for you, I don't think, but that smell, it's just, I love that. Especially when it cuts through kind of like the acidity of the city, the dirt and the grime, then you really experience the juxtaposition. Amazing. So, quotes for the new year. For last year's words belong to last year's language, and next year's words await another voice. T.S. Eliot, 4 Quartets. Be at war with your vices, at peace with your neighbors, and let every new year find you a better man. Benjamin Franklin. Of course, Benjamin Franklin has the apt advice giving. We spent January 1st walking through our lives, room by room, drawing up a list of work to be done, cracks to be patched. Maybe this year, to balance the list, we ought to walk through the rooms of our lives, not looking for flaws, but looking for potential. That was very sweet and charming. And then to end, ironically, the beginning is the most important part of any work. The original Plato. And this feels like the beginning for me in so many ways, the beginning of my life, the beginning of my depression reducing, the beginning of a new year, the beginning of my successes, my newfound optimism, my happiness, my creating content that I really feel connected to. So I hope it's the same for you. I hope this is merely the beginning of a really beautiful, wonderful, magnificent life. And if it's not yet, remember that every day is a new day, and you can always start the beginning tomorrow. It's all up to you. All right. Thanks for listening, you guys.